The reason we see literal tons of videos outlining why representation, specifically good representation, matters is, well, because it's important. Think about it. If your only exposure to a certain group of people comes from negative and stereotypical characteristics in media, until you meet an actual person from said group, you've already made a dozen assumptions about them before even learning their name. You're also going to form biases, which isn't your fault, but it's going to feel like it is. Now, what could classify as good or bad rep is subjective to a group of people, right down to the individuals. And obviously, no one is a monolith. One does not speak for all. Although we may share a race, ethnicity, disability, religion, gender, or sexuality, that doesn't mean we all have the exact same experiences through life. Therefore, no one is a monolith and be the voice for their entire group, and thusly, media's depiction of a marginalized group can either do more harm than good when compared to another's depiction and vice versa. But if it's handled with care and respect, that's what matters most. And you'll see that in this We Bare Bears episode, Grizz the Movie. The Bears are approached by a movie director in search of a new grizzly bear for her film, Grizzly the Movie. Astonishing title, huh? Must have taken weeks to come up with. But Grizz, ever so optimistic, thinking that the film will be all about how awesome his species is, agrees to come on set and be their star bear. While Panda and Ice Bear are busy at the crafts and services table, Grizz is directed to be scary while filming, but it's not quite what the director had in mind. She's at her wit's end with Grizz because he's not behaving like a more typical bear would for these scenes.
Did I just hear someone use a microaggression?
Even though he tries to explain that neither himself nor his brothers behave that way.
Oh, but I don't do that stuff. But my brothers are bears too, and they aren't like that either.
So after take after take after take, the film crew just decides to swap Grizz out for a CG bear to do the mauling scene properly, which horrifies Grizz and rightfully calls out the director for her portrayal of grizzlies.
This just doesn't feel right. Portraying grizzlies like this is wrong. Most grizzlies are really chill.
The worst part about this is that the director herself is aware that grizzlies are mostly chill animals, but she's ever so determined to go through with her horror movie and make everyone afraid of grizzly bears. Grizz tries to stand his ground against her, but gets fired and kicked off the movie lot. Now, while Panda might not think of this as being such a big deal now, Grizz explains that this negative portrayal of grizzlies will not only affect him, but all bears, resulting in people blatantly fearing them out of ignorance. But just as the bears are about to leave the film lot, they hear something from the grizzly movie set. The entire place is falling apart. While Panda and Ice Bear were able to move everyone out safely, Grizz goes to save Andy, who's stuck under a prop boulder. And when all seemed lost, amongst the smoke, Grizz walks out with Andy as a hero. After seeing his display of heroism, the director has a change of heart and decides to take the movie in a different direction, showcasing the true aspects of Grizz, bravery and all.
But how would you like to make this film right? No more CGI, just Grizz, the hero.
And even though the movie flopped, at least one person saw it and thinks bears are awesome. Which just goes to show that if you can educate at least one person, that's still progress. Media centered on a specific group should include members of said group to work on it. Matt Burnett and Ben Levin might be two white guys who created a cartoon about a black family, but their head writer was Jeff Trammell, a black man, as well as having a diverse writing room and voice cast that breathes authenticity into the series. Crack of the Creek is handled with such care and respect, making it one of Cartoon Network's best shows right now. Everyone played their part and contributed more than expected. Now, surely you'd think they would all be compensated accordingly for all that hard work and dedication and extra hours for their craft. Ha 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 ha. Also, this episode actually reminds me of when Jaws first came out and how people's newfound fear of sharks caused the overkilling and hunting of their species, greatly damaging the sea ecosystem for some time. Which just goes to show that we can be greatly influenced by the media we consume, even if it's clearly a work of fiction. So if people were willing to hunt down man-eating sharks, which, by the way, your odds of being attacked by a shark is like 1 in 5 million, so don't worry about that, babes. Imagine what people are willing to do when consuming inaccurate depictions of marginalized groups. Trick question, you don't have to imagine it because it happens every fucking day. Here's an example of just how black people are often portrayed as in the media. Starting out as aggressive thugs, gangsters, pimps, and untrustworthy prostitutes, drug dealers, and disrespectful nappy-headed cheering. And add a dash of colorism for good measure, and you have yourself years of misrepresentation in one setting. And if you've never come across an actual black person before, you're either gonna think we're dangerous ruffians or too cool for school and try to emulate that for some reason, thus resulting in so many non-black people's inaccurate use of AAVE, or Ebonics since y'all don't know what acronyms are for. The cosmetic surgeries and heavy makeup and tans just to emulate and try to have our features, appropriating protective hairstyles, which, cultural appropriation aside, the styles we wear are not meant for fine hair. You could seriously damage your own hair. Did you know that? You ever notice that? When white people, or fine-haired folks in general, braid your hair into box braids like we do, or try to lock it, it falls out. And I don't want to hear anyone crying about that because, come on, we tried to warn you. Or at least I did. And take notice when non-black people are using black scents. It's commonly used when they want to appear tough or act like a bunch of baddies, which just speaks volumes on how they perceive blackness and their desire to dress up in it as if it's some sort of costume. Well, guess what? I've never made a dime off of it, so why does everyone else get to bank off of being ethnically ambiguous? They want diversity without actually having it. But now that we have better and ever-growing depictions of black people, even the coded ones, hopefully folks will start to see us as people and not just archetypes or costumes. Because it truly does hurt my heart that someone would rather judge me based on the ignorant misconceptions of my color rather than my amazingly awesome, generous, hilarious, kind, and humble character. You hoes learned nothing from MLK Jr., but love to use his name in vain every damn year. But hey, I'm just one perspective, who of course doesn't speak for her entire group. And I thought it would be interesting to hear from another person of a different culture, who also does not speak for his entire group, but wishes to share his thoughts.
Hi, I'm GeekToons. You may know me and my channel from my videos on media, be it TV shows, movies, or games. Another fact about me, I'm an Arab. It's not a fact that I like to bring up super often, but it does help explain why I don't have a normal accent compared to most people. When artists asked me about this topic, I was at first going to go the route of exclaiming that there wasn't enough positive rep in media, and ended there. But instead, this segment will be something a little more constructive, going through both the positive and negative rep over the past few years. Might as well get the negatives out the way first. When it comes to a topic such as this, there was a lot to pick from. One could point out that popular films such as Back to the Future, Iron Man, and Indiana Jones portray Arabs as nothing but constantly violent terrorists who want to do nothing but kill. And anyone who would bring up this point would be right in this description to some degree, as this has and still is a popular trope among films today, where most, if any, Arab rap is boiled down to traditional clothing and headdresses. And in animation, it's not much better, with the show Family Guy also being a contributor to the stereotype every time, without fail.
I once knew a guy who was so Arab.
How Arab was he?
He was so Arab that everybody liked him, and there was nothing funny about him at all.
While it's easy to just sit here and complain about this, I feel like this is an issue caused by both parties involved, with Arabs just being consumers and not doing anything but arguing that this is terrible rep in media, and the rest of the world being ignorant and not going out of their way to update their views on people like me. I'll admit, it seems so easy to just choose laziness in this and exclaim the obvious, because in the same way I support LGBT, mixed race, and a variety of genders, body types, and other things in the media I consume, and social media constantly promoting Black, Latino, and other cultures, I want others to see past what media regarding my people promotes in theirs. But representation isn't without its positive factors as well. A good example can be found in the series The Blacklist, with the character Samar Navabi, a character who I can point out as someone who's a shining example for good rep for Arabs. Here's a character who isn't being a restless murderer, who shows how much more of a positive image there can be for Arabs. And it doesn't stop there. People are making good improvements nowadays with characters like Zara from the Netflix series Glitchtex, which I feel is a step in the right direction. But we all have a long way to go when it comes to representation in animation and media in general. But I believe we can do it, if we just keep going. So in the end, what's my point here? Well, for one, both we and the rest of the world need to move past ignorance. In the same way there will always be well-known or well-written Caucasian characters, I know for a fact that there will come a time where Arabs as well as other cultures can be seen in the same way. And with the way things are headed, I think we might be closer than we think.
To be able to see or relate to a character that resembles you can make you feel seen and normalize your existence to the world. If you ever have doubt, just know that you are wanted. No, you are needed in this world. And if you don't feel like you belong, I know you do.